Welcome to the TAF Hub. This is a brand new show brought to you by TAF Africa Global to educate you on real estate business and all the information you need to know about real estate.
After 45 years of construction and real estate development in 8 African countries, it is time to share my experience, and it can only be done in the TAF Hub. We will be inviting experts who will give you facts and the right regulations on real estate development.
Join us every week on our social media platforms for an exciting show. You can also watch us on JRTS TV every Sunday at 8:30 p.m.
As you know, the TAF Hub is one of the initiatives under the TAF Africa Foundation, and we are trying to inspire the youth of this country. We cannot do all this by ourselves, so we look out to Gambians who are doing so well in the diaspora and about to come on holidays to the Gambia. If you know anybody that can inspire the youth that is doing so well in their own areas, please send us an email on this email that's shown on the screen. Ask Mr. Peter Gomez, to come on board, and same thing, introduce himself, and then talk about good communication. I think one needs to be confident to be able to deliver, good communication. So I think the two are linked. So let's give a round of applause to Mr. Gomez.
Good evening, and I'd like to begin by associating myself with everything that TAF said, first about some of you who are about to graduate and those of you who have graduated already, but most especially about the girls, the ladies, because like him, all my children are girls as well. One of them is a lawyer practicing in the UK. The other one is a business manager living and working in Germany. The last one decided to come back and be next to her father, and in fact, she was the one that helped me get to this place. So those men who feel that without a boy child, they don't have a life, just look at TAF and me, and you will love your girls much better. So congratulations to all the girls. And after all, there's a nice song that says, Chowli Chowli, Jigeen Nye Ko Yor, not so? One of the biggest, as TAF says, if not the biggest banks in this country is headed by what? Not a man, but a woman. So women, you need to be confident in yourselves. Now, like Njilan said, I would also want to begin by calling your attention to, that's the first thing that hits you really, if you know what leadership is all about. Some people tell you about 7 core values of leadership, others less, others take it up to 10 and stop there. But TAF Leadership Academy have gone up to 12. So really, you have to doff your hat to the people at TAF Leadership Academy. But if you look at all the 12 core values, there's one thread that ties them all together. And what do you think that is? Communication. I am sure you were impressed with the performance of Mrs. Njilan Senghor Jeng. I'll be very careful to tag the Jeng because her family status has changed. It doesn't matter how much confidence she has in herself. If she is unable to communicate the confidence, nobody will know that she is confident. It doesn't matter how honest a person is, if the person is unable to communicate that honesty, either through deed or even by not saying anything, but the way they comport themselves, their honesty will never be known to anybody. But the question becomes, what is communication? Communication, if you ask 10 people, we'll have 10 different answers. How many are we in the hall, do you think? 100? 200? So if I asked each one of you what communication is, to define communication, you will each have an answer, and it will be a right answer. For some, communication is limited to what they can convey through writing, whether it is via a novel, email, or text message. For others, it may be defined as the information that can be conveyed via the spoken word, like I am doing now. I am communicating with you through the spoken word, and whether you know it or not, you are communicating back to me through silence, but by paying full attention to me, because that is the purpose of this evening, to have a communication, to flow from me to you and from you back to me. So I am here to speak to you, and in return, what am I expecting back from you? Attention, which is what? Silent. So you are involved in silent communication while I am here, up here, speaking to you. You will notice that deliberately I haven't introduced myself, because the introduction that TAF did of me was enough. But to get an official, common definition of communication, I turned to the Merriam-Webster dictionary. This is online. I'm sure most of you spend more time online researching, hearing new words, and trying to know what they mean. And most, if not all of you, would have looked up a word in the Merriam-Webster dictionary. And this is how the dictionary defines communication. Communication is the act or process of using words, what I am doing now, sounds, signs, or behaviors to express or exchange information, or to express your ideas, thoughts, feelings, etc. to someone else. A few minutes after I walked into the hall, I was sitting next to the lady who was on that table where the first MC now sits, and I was sitting in the chair where that gentleman is now sitting. The lady came up here, and before she began talking, I heard ding dong, then ding dong, and I turned around to the lady who was there. I said, is she calling the attention of the people? So that was communicating. That was communicating. How many of you have flown in aircraft? So every time the pilot needs to make an announcement, what do you hear first? There's a ding dong sound, isn't there? To call everybody's attention. So there are different forms of communication. So that is communicating by sound. And if I was up here without the microphone and I needed the attention of somebody at the back of the hall, what am I likely to do you think? Okay, clapping is one, but I don't want to make a sound. Exactly. I'll raise my hand and wave like that, and then that is to catch the person's attention. So that is communicating by what? Signs. You understand? Or while I'm speaking now, if somebody was also talking at the same time, but, at a lower tone, and TAF wants to say, well, you should listen, he'll probably just do that, meaning, keep quiet. So you can also communicate, via your sign, or even by behavior. If I felt that while talking, there's a lot of chatter going on in the hall, what do you think I will likely do if I don't shout at you to keep quiet? What do you think I will likely do? Exactly, I will just stop. So I will just keep quiet, stand here and be staring at you. So by expressing in a certain way my body, you will know that, oh no, he wants us to keep quiet. So your behavior communicates to express or exchange information. You can communicate by sharing ideas, thoughts, feelings, etc. So this is a broad definition, but it does not encompass everything that makes up the concept of communication. But every time you convey information to another person, whether it's the one that takes orders at your favorite restaurant or your supervisor at the office, you are communicating. You use communication. I haven't met anyone who does not communicate with others. For one, humans are social beings, and interacting with one another is as natural as breathing. However, there are exceptions who would rather keep to themselves, but even they still interact with others. You hear, ano ki wahambariut ki de mom, tafrek mo kumuna wahlo. So it doesn't matter how withdrawn a person is, there will always be somebody either in the family or in the circle of friends who can get them to communicate. Moreover, with the recent advancement in technology and the global trend in communication, it's just difficult not to get in touch with the rest of the world. And to prove my point, who in this hall doesn't have a smartphone, a tablet, or a laptop? Is there anybody in this hall who does not have one or all of these three? A smartphone, a tablet, or a laptop? There isn't anyone. How many times do you check your email? How many times do you check your phone for messages? How many times do you check your social networking profiles? Have you ever been in that situation where you said the right thing in the wrong way? We're talking about good communication, or in the wrong context. I have found myself on many occasions completely missing the mark while intending nothing but the best. So many issues in life and business boil down to mixed communication. Communication is key in any relationship, and the right communication can build, while bad communication hampers even the best of relationships over time. If you communicate properly, your relationships get stronger. If you communicate poorly, it doesn't matter how strong the relationship, over time, it will begin to disintegrate. The dilemma that confronts everyone in this highly communicative world is not so much about the means to communicate, rather the dilemma is how to communicate effectively, whether in the workplace or otherwise. Human communication is riddled with inaccuracy and miscommunication. The reason for most misunderstandings is people think they are speaking about the same thing, but their conception of it is actually completely different. So people on the ruling party will tell you, we want the development of this country. People in opposition will tell you the same. It's just that their concepts are different. Their perspectives are different. So we may all want the same thing, but how we see achieving that same thing is what is different. Couples who talk about love, but who have different visions of it. People who share a friendship, but each identifying with different characteristics. Good communication reinforces trust and builds unity. Good communication reinforces trust and builds unity. Bad communication causes confusion and people to question the authenticity of the other party. Mrs. Jeng has already told you that you are leaders in your own right. So I am speaking to you now as leaders. And successful leaders understand the importance of communicating effectively and authentically. Effectively and authentically, creating a positive impact within their current and future spheres of influence, and setting purpose-driven goals. Every leader has responsibilities, and when we talk about the functions of management, several words always rise to the top: planning, organizing, staffing, leading, empowering, decision-making. But what's the one common thread that ties all of them together? Communication. So for me, I would say, of all the responsibilities a leader has, there are three main ones. 1, communication. 2, communication. 3, communication, and I'll tell you why. Now, interwoven with communication is trust. We made reference to it earlier on. There's a deep connection between trust and communication. They are interwoven, one depending on the other. Trust is the foundation of communication, and communication is paramount to building trust. If a leader has lost trust, it doesn't matter how hard they try, they will never, ever be effective in their leadership, because trust is fundamental to leadership. Once trust is lost, communication and leading go right along with it. They too are lost. In this world, your generation, where truth is dead and trust is very low, you have to communicate your passion, your belief, your values in very simple ways, always. So do not waste your time on people who cannot help you go further in life. So how can leaders build trust in communication? By creating a culture of trust. If you want to have a really good, effective, powerful communication, you have to respect a number of rules. Now, there are many of them, but I have opted for just 6, touching on consistency, character, clarity, collaboration, caring, and candor. By consistency, what do we mean? Say what you are going to do and do it. Anytime you tell your team, this is what I want to do, be seen one day to do it, if not immediately. And then there's character. Be a decent person and do the right thing. Be a decent person and do the right thing. Be accountable and admit it when you make mistakes. Be accountable to the people you work with, those above you, those below you. I'm sure you are hearing about the story of $31 million that just disappeared in Imprest. Not all of them were at the very top. Some of them were just middle managers. So accountability is not only for the ones at the very top or the ones at the very middle, even the one at the very bottom of the ladder. Accountability is for everyone. Clarity. We are not always clear in communication. Be clear and concise. Be clear and concise. Try to say everything you want to say as quickly as possible, in the fewest words possible, but very clear. Because the longer you go on, the longer you bore people, perhaps. I may be guilty already. Always be realistic and never overpromise anything you can't deliver. I'm sure you know about this. Every 5 years, we are promised. We wait for 10 years, nothing happens. 15 years, nothing happens. 20 years, nothing happens. Nothing ever happens at all. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. Collaboration. Asking employees for input shows you value other people's feedback and opinions. By not including them in the process, but by using their ideas, you build trust and loyalty over time while making them part of the process. I am sure in the 18 months you were being prepared by the TAF Leadership Academy, from time to time they asked you ideas, didn't they? And I'm sure you have seen some of those ideas, not all of them, some of those ideas being implemented. So that shows you that you are valued. You are part of the building process of this Leadership Academy. Then there is caring. This talks about the importance of empathy and empathic listening. Let people know you care by acknowledging their feelings and concerns. So caring, that is something you have to build on as a leader. And the final C of the 6 we have is candor. Being honest and authentic, especially in time or times of doubt. Being honest and authentic, especially in times of doubt. We are currently in a time of doubt. I don't want to sound political, but 70 children have died, and have we always trusted what we've heard? Have we always thought that what we heard was authentic? I'm sure this is a question that is going on and on. I take my politics everywhere with me. Don't try to twist the situation into something positive, because people easily recognize lying. People may not tell you to your face, but they will leave the hall and be saying nasty things about you. So always, as a leader, speak with candor. Now embrace those 6 C's and you will likely establish a firm culture of trust in your workplace. Now, having all of the aforementioned and other communication skills is still not enough to ensure that your communication sessions will always proceed smoothly. There's always some sort of barrier that will hinder the effectiveness of communication. And you must be aware of such communication barriers so that it becomes easier for you to identify them and do your best to eliminate them. Again, there are any number of them, but for the purpose of this dialogue, I'll just highlight a few. Cultural and language difference. This barrier is common in organizations where people from different backgrounds and cultures work together. Some of you may find work outside this country in international organizations where your colleagues will come from every corner of the world. I have been in that situation before when I worked in Germany. And I remember the first time I was engaged in a conversation with an Indian. In the middle of my speech, he kept doing this. You know, in the Gambia, that means, just shut up, I'm tired of hearing. But actually, in Indian culture, that is willing you to keep talking. So So these are some of the, no, we nearly had a problem, but then he explained himself. But usually, when you come from different cultural backgrounds, it takes a disaster for each to explain, to the other. So that is it. So this barrier, cultural and language difference, can be a big hindrance to effective or good communication. Also, there are likely to be language differences among people, which is likely to widen the communication gap. Again, yesterday going to work, we passed an old Fuller man, so he had his prayer beads, and I thought, well, an old man praying to God, so, it was a bit dark. These days you are careful who you give a ride, especially people you don't know. So he hopped into the car. I was going straight to work in Kotu. Now, he was going further in to London Corner. So as we came up to, how many of you know Safidin? Yeah. So the road that leads to Marsengelo, I was heading back up to the main traffic to connect with the main road. So as we turned right to head towards the main road, he couldn't speak Wolof, he couldn't speak Mandinka. So he started saying, Jipo, Jipo, Jipo. So I turned around and I said, Louis Jipo. And so we stopped. He opened the door and started, reaching for his pocket, thinking that he was in a taxi, and started taking out money. So here I was thinking he was asking for a lift, a ride, and there he was thinking I was in a taxi. You see, communication difference. So the best way to overcome this barrier is to respect the culture of other people and try to find common grounds for making the interaction possible. Judging others. We are very quick to judge others. Very quick to judge others. Being judgmental is never good when you expect positive results from a conversation. When you judge a person while communicating, you are focusing more on criticizing them and reaching for their weaknesses instead of trying to understand what they are saying. Lack of enthusiasm. Communication can never be effective if you do not believe in the information that you are sharing. Showing a lack of energy while interacting with someone can put a negative impact on them. You have to have an interest and show confidence, like the previous speaker did. And the final one, of course, is physical barriers. The physical environment also has a major impact on the effectiveness of communication. Noisy background, bad hearing, speech impairments, etc., can all affect the delivery of the information. All right? Speech impairments. You want to say, I'm going to buy a new kitchen. And you say, I'm going to buy a new chicken. We know that happens. You have communicated, but have you communicated the right information? So in rounding up, communication is one important thing in our lives, but do we always take it seriously? Our communication skills leave an impression on the people we have a conversation with. And this is where I am now talking directly to you. People often ignore this aspect of communication skills. They don't focus on it and end up making bad impressions. Sometimes the reason for somebody's rejection in an interview can be what? A lack of good communication skills. All the qualifications Trust Bank Limited are looking for are in you. But they also realize that they work with people. People not only who are members of the staff, but more importantly, the people who are not members of the staff, the raison d'etre, their raison d'etre, the reason why they are Trust Bank Limited. The Alhaji Mustafa Njais, and the Amadou Njais and the others, and the Yusufas who bring the foreign currencies of YEP. They are why Mrs. Jang wakes up every morning to go to the office. So she is trying to build a staff to better manage the finances they are entrusted with. So they put out a call for expression of interest, but you need to have A, B, C, and D, and you tick all the boxes when it comes to qualification, paper qualification. But you go to an interview and you do not pass. Unluckily for you, you went to that same interview with somebody with whom you were in the same class. You have better results than them, but they succeeded where you failed. What happens? No, daf ko dugalante. We say that all the time. It may be correct sometimes, but not always. Not always. All right? Some people don't get much attention in the workplace because they really are not good at communication. You go to certain places that ki bookworm la. But then, you talk to people, father ki kay mobile. Not only in your professional life, but good communication matters in your personal life as well. If you are on a date, how many of you have not been on a date yet? Yeah, not a single one. If you are on a date and you are not able to convey your message properly or say things that you are not supposed to say, you may leave a bad impression with your date, not so? How many of you has that happened to? Yeah, at least there is one honest one there. Later on, I will ask you what happened. Good communication is a lot similar to good manners. Good manners lie in good communication. In our daily life chats, we tend to speak however we want, but do we notice that it has an impact on our relationships? To have good basic communication, we need to put our main focus on a few things. We should be polite, as politeness gives a sense of positivity and always looks respectful. We should try to listen to the speaker very carefully, because we very often have a situation where our friend or relative is sad or sharing a problem. And if we don't play our part of listening, and instead we start sharing our own problems or views, very naturally our friends will feel offended. We should focus on thinking before speaking, because many times we speak out every thought we have without thinking, and that is not the right thing to do. To make a connection with someone, we should always have the right attitude and body language also. With friends and family, we should have a sense of politeness and emotion in our way of communicating. Just because you are close to someone doesn't mean you can say whatever you like. People may distance themselves from you because you say things that you are not supposed to say, and also in an unacceptable way. Workplace communication is one thing we should also understand. If you don't have a good connection with your colleagues or bosses, let me tell you, the first reason can be your poor way of communicating. In your workplace, you are much more likely to be respectful first, and for that you should have a non-aggressive tone. You should try to convey your thoughts and messages with the right words and in the best way possible. You should be confident and polite at the same time. Your tone should be soft, and you should be clear with every word. You should have a connecting body language and the right type of attitude. If your attitude isn't right or is misinterpreted, it can be impactful, but in a bad way. If you lack good communication skills, it is going to be very hard for you to crack interviews. When you go for an interview, you should be very particular with what you say. You should greet the interviewer very politely and in the best way possible. While introducing yourself, you should speak everything clearly and should avoid using words like obviously and of course. This is from personal experience. Somebody walks into my office and everything I ask, obviously. Everything I say, of course. Well, that's your language. That's the language of the present generation. So, such people seem very disrespectful and impolite. Even if there are situations where you are losing your patience, and you should try to keep your tone soft, because sometimes the interviewer tries to test your patience. The person who is interviewing you will be trying to push you as far as possible. Because sometimes you get in a situation in the job where everybody has to put in 105 and more. So you should just not go there framing your mind that, well, I know the job, it's an 8 to 4 job, and that's it. Sometimes the interviewer will try to push you to know. What if we go beyond 4 o'clock? And then you say, okay, I don't mind working till 4:30. Yeah, what if we have to go till 5 o'clock? Okay, I don't mind going till 5 o'clock. What if we have to go till, 5:30? And then you start going and say, well, are we going to be doing that until the point where I don't even go back home to my family? So they are testing your patience. Be careful of everything and think before you speak, because not all, but some interviews can be hectic, and you might lose your patience at some point and may speak out of turn. It is very important to be confident, because if you lack confidence, you are almost likely to get rejected. The importance of effective communication is therefore undeniable. If you don't have it, learn what good communication is and how to enhance effective communication skills in the workplace and all aspects of life. Thank you very much for your kind attention. Let's now have a conversation.
As you know, the TAF Hub is one of the initiatives under the TAF Africa Foundation, and we are trying to inspire the youth of this country. We cannot do all this by ourselves, so we look out to Gambians who are doing so well in the diaspora and about to come on holidays to the Gambia. If you know anybody that can inspire the youth that is doing so well in their own areas, please send us an email on this email that's shown on the screen.